Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And today we're talking Cynthia Erivo, the actress from Wicked, is going to play Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl. Barbara Broccoli sells the rights to James Bond for $1 million to Amazon. But first, the intelligent Natalie with 15 minutes in Spanish.
Nat. Okay. So, hola. Buenas noches a todos. Bueno, por fin tengo algunas noticias. La gran mayoría va a ser sobre entretenimiento, porque es viernes y la verdad que flojera estar tan metidos en política. Y pues he visto esta historia rondando bastante y no sé si aquí en México pues importe mucho. Bueno, estoy en México, pero en Latinoamérica o Hispanoamérica, como le quieran decir, importe mucho porque pues va a ser una producción que se va a dar en Los Ángeles, en Hollywood, en el Hollywood Bowl, y trata de que Cynthia Erivo, la actriz que interpretó a Elphaba en Wicked y que ya había también sido un poco bastante controversial. Igual cuando salió hice todo un video sobre las controversias de Wicked, y cuando salieron con Ariana Grande para el tour de prensa, pues las dos se veían como si hubieran salido de un campo de esos del señor del bigote, muy muy flacas, muy como lloraban a cada rato y hacían panchos y todo les tocaban fibras sensibles. Entonces pues ahora, por su interpretación de Elphaba en Wicked, y porque trae pues la estrellita ahorita de bien hecho, y porque pues obviamente seguimos un poco con todo lo de diversidad, equidad e inclusión, se les ocurrió muy buena idea, entre comillas, ponerla a ella para el papel de Jesús en el musical de Jesucristo Superestrella o Jesus Christ Superstar, que se va a dar en unas sesiones de verano que hace normalmente en Los Ángeles, en el Hollywood Bowl. Entonces, pues aquí dice, gracias a él le dará vida a Jesús en Jesucristo Superestrella. Y la actriz no es del todo ajeno a este proyecto. ¿Por qué? Porque ya también participó como María Magdalena durante una producción de puras mujeres que ya se había hecho antes. Dice, tras el éxito de su interpretación de Wicked como la bruja malvada del oeste, Cynthia Erivo acaba de conseguir su siguiente papel y será nada más y nada menos que como la protagonista y siendo Jesús durante el verano. Y este es un musical que salió a finales de los 70, si no me equivoco. Es por Andrew Lloyd Webber, que ha hecho muchos musicales, ha hecho bastantes películas bastante famosas. Y Tim Rice también, los dos son como de las entidades más importantes que hay en musicales, y habían hecho este musical hace mucho. También ha tenido muchas controversias este musical. Y otra vez aquí dice que no es ajena a la obra porque fue María Magdalena. Y pues obviamente en las redes, en especial las redes más conservadoras, en las redes que pues me toca ver a mí también, habían muchos armando un pancho de que cómo puede ser que Jesús, una mujer de color, además, porque diría la otra palabra, pero pues YouTube no quiero que se enoje, cómo puede ser, y es blasfemia contra la religión y nunca le harían esto a otras religiones, que es cierto. Me encantaría ver que trataran de hacer algo sobre la religión de la estrella y media luna con mujeres siendo pues sus ídolos religiosos. Pero la verdad, ya pensándolo un poco mejor, o si sabes de qué trata Jesucristo Superestrella, pues como mencioné, ya había sido muy criticada o bastante criticada por personas de fe. Yo repito que yo no tengo ningún tipo de religión, no soy religiosa, pero entiendo la necesidad y la importancia de la religión en la vida pública y para la sociedad en general, y que crea un cimiento moral para todo el mundo, y que pues es importante también que no esté junto con el gobierno, pero es importante tener valores y religión todavía en este mundo. Bueno, el musical nunca lo vi, me parece que no. Creo que había una producción hecha por como una escuela o la escuela de un amigo hace mucho tiempo. Pero en la producción pues no se pinta a Jesús como se pinta tradicionalmente en la religión cristiana, católica. Ya lo habían considerado bastante ofensivo. Entonces Por ejemplo, si fuera un musical que fuera producido y fuera muy fiel a la fe católica cristiana, voy a decir cristiana, a la fe cristiana, entonces pues sí, sería bastante indignante. Pero el hecho de que en este musical también, por ejemplo, ponen a Judas como si tuviera tal vez un buen punto con todo lo que pasó y todo lo que pasa en la Biblia. Entonces, o sea, ya de por sí el musical no es bien recibido por las personas que lo ven, que lo conocen, pero también, pues, ¿qué quiere decir? Y me remonto a una historia que ya llevo cargando como 3 días seguidos sobre esta exposición que hicieron por parte de la UNAM de Fabián Chaires, ya hasta me aprendí el nombre de ese señor, que montaron una exposición también sobre la religión católica, pero todo haciendo alusión a pues cosas bastante asquerosas y poniendo a toda la religión en pues situaciones comprometedoras. Este fue el mismo señor que puso a, me parece que fue Zapatas encuerado como si fuera mujer. Entonces, es lo mismo de por qué sí le pueden hacer esto a la religión católica cristiana, pero porque a ninguna otra religión se le puede tocar, y hasta qué punto llega o no a ser algo arte. En el caso de la Venida del Señor, así es como se llama la exposición que puso la UNAM como institución pública, vuelvo a remarcar, burlándose de la religión de pues la gran mayoría de las personas de fe en México son de religión católica y o cristiana. Entonces, pues cuando se llega a ese punto de asquerosidad y se le hace pasar por arte, ahí sí yo no digo que es arte y que no hay, o sea, que solo decir que es arte porque sí no le da justificación a tratar de esta forma a la fe de tantas personas, que es tan importante para tantas personas. En el caso del musical, pues no sé, o sea, ahí tendría que hablar alguien que sí sea de fe y que diga qué piensa del musical, pero el hecho es que por todo lo de la diversidad, equidad e inclusión, y ahora con Donald Trump como presidente, pues obviamente van a seguir queriendo mandar mensajes. Y también he visto varias otras personas de fe en Estados Unidos, comentaristas políticos, etcétera. Tommy Lauren, por ejemplo, dijo que pues no le importa realmente porque el musical ya de por sí era ofensivo, ya de por sí no le gustaba a las personas de fe o de religiosas. Entonces, recae en cada persona decir si lo van a pensar o sentir que es ofensivo o no, pero pues, o sea, ¿qué se espera más bien? O sea, ¿qué se espera? Y más bien, ¿qué se le puede seguir pidiendo, demandando a los medios, a todo lo que consumimos? Y eso, una vez más, recae en cada uno de nosotros de qué queremos ver y qué no queremos ver y qué nos interesa. Ahora, otra noticia que también yo creo que tiene que ver un poco con diversidad, equidad e inclusión, es que Amazon ahora se hace con el control creativo de la saga de James Bond y podrá decidir quién sustituye a Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, que fue el último en una fila bastante grande de muchos actores que interpretaron a James Bond, este ícono masculino y de poder, no poder, pero como ícono más masculino. Bueno, muchos hombres han querido y quieren ser un poco como James Bond, por lo menos en sus cabezas. Entonces, ya habían varios rumores, ya desde hace años, ahora sí, desde que Daniel Craig pues salió, lo mataron, lo desvivieron, ya casi se me va a mí también en la serie de James Bond, de que tal vez iba a sustituir un hombre de color o una mujer de color. ¿Saben qué? Chance, ¿por qué no le decimos a Cynthia Erivo que ahora también puede ser James Bond? Y así ya terminamos con 2 pájaros de un boom boom. Porque no puedo decir creo que no puedo decir la otra palabra. Entonces, pues, ¿qué quiere decir que Amazon se lo haya llevado? Pues también vimos qué pasó, por ejemplo, con El Señor de los Anillos y toda la serie que hicieron y el gran de respeto y la gran falta de respeto que fue al legado de J.R.R. Tolkien. Y pues va a seguir pasando, sí, pero también hemos visto que ha habido un cambio lento sobre todo lo de la diversidad, equidad e inclusión en medios también Disney ya también medio se dio cuenta, varios otros estudios de producción, Netflix ahí va, pero sí saben qué es lo que quiere el público. Y como ya lo he dicho antes, las producciones tardan de 2 a 3 años en salir desde que alguien desarrolla una idea y se escribe el guión hasta que sale en pantalla ya para el público. Entonces vamos a seguir viendo varias de estas estupideces de tratar de poner lo más diverso y lo más incluyente y lo más equitativo en pantalla, pero menos con producciones nuevas. Entonces hay otro rumor de que tal vez el nuevo James Bond vaya a ser Henry Cavill, que también interpretó a Superman. Creo que ahorita ya lo vieron un poquito ya en edad como para seguir siendo Superman. Lo reemplazaron en las nuevas películas que van a salir pronto, que también no se ven muy buenas. Mucha gente se enojó con el trailer que sacaron durante el Super Bowl sobre Superman, porque una vez más, esta es una película que fue o está siendo producida y ya lleva bastante tiempo en producción, entonces le tocaron todavía todas las fallas de Hollywood que querían seguir metiendo. Entonces ya veremos qué pasa con James Bond. Una vez más, si apenas va a empezar toda la producción de estas nuevas películas de James Bond, si es que las quieren hacer, puede ser que ya no se tenga que poner tanto énfasis en que tiene que ser Cynthia Erivo, básicamente. Entonces, esperemos que no, porque es uno de los pocos legados que todavía se ven en pantalla masculinos. Bueno, tradicionalmente masculinos. Y luego, también rápidamente, el abogado de Sean Diddy Combs renunció a su defensa justo un día después de que Kash Patel, y esto lo hablé en el en vivo de ayer, Kash Patel fue ya elegido como director para el FBI, ya lo confirmaron como director para el FBI, y un día después Anthony Rico, que es uno de los 6 abogados de Diddy, dijo que ya no va a seguir como en parte de su defensa y que hay razones suficientes por las cuales no quiere seguir ahí. Y pues también tiene que ver con esta noticia rápida de que la lista de clientes de Jeffrey Epstein, podría hacerse pública en breve, según la fiscal general Pam Bondi, que también fue confirmada hace no mucho. Y habían prometido tanto ella como Kash Patel que iban a sacar esta lista, que obviamente va a exponer a muchas de las entidades con muchísimo poder en Estados Unidos. Entonces, pues, si vemos hacia dónde se están moviendo y hacia dónde están corriendo todas las ratas, pues podemos predecir que tal vez el abogado de Diddy también lo está viendo venir hacia este caso también. Y obviamente también hay una lista de Diddy, entonces sería interesante ver quiénes también están ahí y pues quiénes están en ambas, porque yo creo que van a haber muchos que están en ambas listas y que pues ya sus abogados están empezando a decir, ya ahora sí no hay ni cómo ayudarlos. Y a ver, ¿qué más? Y hablando de diversidad, equidad e inclusión, rápido, Robbie Starbuck ha hablado sobre él, es un periodista, investigador, ha hecho mucho trabajo para irse en contra de la diversidad, equidad e inclusión y exponer a empresas y compañías que lo siguen usando como estandarte, y esto ya lo lleva haciendo durante años. Pero dijo hoy, y iba a traducir el tweet, pero se veía muy raro, entonces rápido lo trato de traducir en vivo. Dice: gran noticia, contacté a PepsiCo, que son todos los que llevan Pepsi, pero pues no es solo Pepsi, también son muchísimas marcas, porque ya ven cómo todas las marcas terminan englobadas en un solo paraguas, lo estoy pensando en inglés, para decirles que planeaba hacer una historia sobre todas sus políticas woke, y cuando los contacté dijeron que estaban listos para hacer grandes cambios, y ahora les puedo decir exclusivamente que están cambiando. PepsiCo ya no va a tener un oficial de diversidad, equidad e inclusión, no va a tener un equipo de diversidad, equidad e inclusión, va a terminar con las metas de representación sobre diversidad, equidad e inclusión. No va a participar en el HRC, el Human Rights Campaign, o la campaña de derechos humanos. Si no estás enterado sobre nada de todas estas siglas o lo que estoy diciendo, hice un video sobre diversidad, equidad e inclusión y cómo ha llegado a México, Latinoamérica, y se llama México, diversidad, bueno, lo dejo también en los comentarios. Es uno que tiene como muchos colores y un señor con sobrepeso en la portada. no va a participar en el en el puntaje de HRC y la agenda woke trans, y los activistas van a perder influencia y poder de un día para otro. Van a terminar todas las conferencias y todo el entrenamiento de diversidad, equidad e inclusión. Todos los que sean patrocinadores deben de alinearse con este mensaje por parte de la compañía. Y bueno, rápido, y varias otras cosas. Van a enfocarse en tratar de apoyar en vez de solo a empresas o pequeñas empresas que sean diversas, equitativas, etcétera, o que tengan algún tipo de palomita. Ahora van a empezar a tratar de apoyar solo pequeñas empresas sin importar de qué color o género sean sus dueños. Y rápido, porque es importante, porque aquí están todas las marcas que están bajo PepsiCo, que no solo es Pepsi, es Gatorade, Quaker, Quaker, barritas Chewy's, Starbucks Coffees, los que venden en los supermercados, las bebidas energéticas Energy, Mountain Dew, Captain Crunch, Sabra Hummus. Estoy leyendo las que sí he visto que hay en México. Aunt Jemima, que es lo que le ponen a los hotcakes, Tropicana, Chetos, Doritos, Lay's y Sabritas, Ruffles, Tostitos, Chesters. Creo que aquí Sabritas lo lleva también en conjunto con alguien más. Frito-Lay, Miss Vicky's también he visto que hay aquí, Sun Chips, bueno, etcétera. Son muchísimas marcas, entonces es importante que, al igual que con Walmart, pues todo el impacto que esto puede tener, y pues quiere decir que sí están haciendo caso y que sí se están dando cuenta de que está cambiando el ambiente. Pero, ya me pasé, ya voy en 17 minutos, pero acordémonos que con todo esto siempre también hay una mini agenda escondida donde hay algunas empresas que dicen que ya van a dejar atrás la diversidad, equidad e inclusión y solo se van a pasar hacia países donde no lo han notado todavía. Por ejemplo, aquí Walmart México y Centroamérica y también Latinoamérica, bueno, son varios, nunca declararon que iban a seguir los pasos como en Estados Unidos. Entonces, ahora que ya saben qué sirve y qué no, hay muchas de estas empresas que van a tratar de meterse hacia acá, pero ya como recargadas y sabiendo mejor qué hacer. Pero como ya me pasé, no veo que nadie haya escrito nada, entonces pues sí, venían a lo de español y ya se van. Muchas gracias por quedarse. Muchísimas gracias a todos los nuevos suscriptores. También se me olvidó decirlo al principio, que llegaron por parte de una alienada que hizo todo un video y lo sacó aparte con comentando nuestro video sobre la Tinks. Entonces, muchísimas gracias a todos, bienvenidos y cuídense, es viernes, si salen no hagan cosas tontas y espero que tengan una excelente noche. Y si se quedan a lo de inglés, pues ahora ya vamos con Guy y conmigo juntos. Okay.
Okay, before we get into the English news stories, kind of geopolitics and U.S. based today, but did you tell everybody about the new video you posted?
No, I didn't either. Okay. Rápido, hice también un video sobre el colapso demográfico, colapso poblacional o de natalidad o como le quieran decir, vayan a verlo. Y el siguiente va a ser sobre fertilización in vitro y todos los problemas que tiene esa industria. And yes, I made a video in Spanish about population collapse that alludes to one I did. I said it 1 year ago in the video, but it was actually 2 years ago. And how it's helping humanity decline. And also the next video will be about IVF, in vitro fertilization, and the disgusting industry that it is.
And maybe I'll say a couple words about the new video. Sure. I'm really actually happy with the production value. If you look where our channel started compared to where we're at today, it's just me and her doing everything. And so I do most of the production, the sound, the lighting, the set.
He does everything before and while we film, and I do most of the things after, and we write them mostly together.
Together, yeah. But I'm obsessive compulsive when it comes to trying to make something better every single time we film, and I finally feel like I got to a place where I'm pretty happy with it. Mm-hmm. I've been really hard on Nat over the last few years, and she's put up with me.
Well, so, I think it's mutual. Yeah. We have high standards for each other, which I think works for us might not work for you as a couple, so don't follow our lead.
Okay, well, let's get into the news. If you haven't watched the video, go watch the video after our live. Okay, Cynthia Erivo, you know more about this than I do, but Cynthia Erivo from the new movie Wicked is going to play Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl.
It's going to play where's my camera there? I have like 3 cameras that follow me now. So according to Variety and to a lot of other sources, this has been causing a lot of controversy because Cynthia Erivo, who is a woman of color, also bisexual, I believe, to play Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl this summer. So this is a musical that was released, I believe, in the later 70s, really gained popularity during the 80s, and it's by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, who are essentially how do I call it, like eminences amongst musicals and musical theater and Broadway. So they have a lot of musicals, also a lot of movies that you probably know about. They're behind the music and the score at least. So yes, she has been selected to play Jesus. Beforehand, in another production, in an all-female production, she played Mary Magdalene, so she's not a stranger to the musical. But a lot of people are very upset because, of course, the Christian Catholic religion continues to be battered and ran through and made fun of. And I have other opinions, but do you?
Yeah, well, I think the right now is gaining more political power and stuff like this, and they're kind of realizing that don't throw a fit when the left tries to do crazy stuff like this, because they're really just trying to make headlines and cause a fuss. Let them have their little demonic whatever they want to have and disrespect whatever they want and just pay them no attention. But I really don't like when historical figures like Jesus or Nelson Mandela or something like that is played by the opposite sex or the opposite race. They wouldn't have a white person playing Nelson Mandela or a woman playing Nelson Mandela, but you're going to do this to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is known to be an Arab, so maybe have an Arab or somebody of like
Arab descent
playing that.
I mean Jewish.
Or Jewish descent, yeah. But you kind of get what I'm saying. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, as I said in Spanish, because I did talk about this in Spanish, the musical itself caused a lot of controversy back when it came out, and it continues to cause controversy because it's not about like the actual biblical story of Jesus. It's mostly about a little bit apologizing for Judas, and it centers the story more towards Judas than even Jesus, and tries to point out mistakes that Jesus made. And also, hold on. Oh, I think I closed it. No, here it is. One of the main controversies was also because of the creators, who, I mean, of course, are musical theater people. They're not religious at all, and if they are, well, no, they're not the kind of deeply entrenched religious that you would think. And one of the creators, I believe Tim Rice was quoted as saying that it happens that we don't see Christ as God, but simply the right man at the right time at the right place. So they went into it trying to portray Jesus not as the Son of God, eventual Trinity, etc. So I mean, overall, it's not something that was aimed at Catholics, Christians, people of faith, but
I also think it was aimed to make a controversy.
Yes, and especially because of Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump being in now, they're trying desperately to do whatever they can to anger him, but I really don't think he or a lot of his supporters care, because this musical is not something that they looked up to. It was not something made for them, so it doesn't really
And I think
matter.
This kind of goes into the next story, which is also about movies. It's Barbara Broccoli sells the rights to James Bond for $1 billion to Amazon, saying that Amazon had bought, Warner Brothers Studios? Anyway, they bought one of the major studios for $8 billion, just over $8 billion, and they had bought the rights to James Bond with that. Huh? MGM. They had bought the rights to James Bond with that, but they didn't have exclusive rights. Barbara Broccoli was actually the daughter of the original owner of the, IP? Mm-hmm.
Intellectual
And
property.
she was very protective over the intellectual property and where they would go, how they would cast it, the things James Bond would do. She was really kind of protecting it from woke Hollywood. Well, woke Hollywood was really emerging and trying to lay claim to James Bond. So the fact that she now sold it, I'm going to be very interested to see who they cast. So I know there's a big fan movement for them to cast Harvey Keitel,
Henry Cavill. Who's Henry Keitel?
He's from Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Henry
Before my
Cavill.
time. Cavill.
Okay, Cavill.
There you go.
But I know Idris Elba was who they were talking about possibly playing James Bond before. I think both of those castings would be pretty terrific, but we'll see what they do with it. I really hope they don't go woke and try to cast a woman.
Well, and that's what I was saying in the Spanish one, that, I mean, we are seeing this movement away from DI and wokeness and all of this in Hollywood, but productions take a long time to be seen from, like, inception to seeing it on the screen. It takes a few years sometimes, usually. And so we will continue to see tinges of the woke DEI stuff in films at least this coming year, but since they haven't really done anything yet. And I also mentioned what they did with Lord of the Rings, then they completely destroyed that franchise. It wasn't Lord of the Rings, but like the series they did about the prequel, I guess. Forget the name. I'm a nerd, but not that big of a nerd. I forget the name of
they really destroyed it with wokeism. Barbara Broccoli was really the saving grace for James Bond when wokeness was infecting Hollywood.
And what I was going to say is that, I mean, they might try to go the opposite way if they want to anger Trump and his supporters by maybe even casting Cynthia Erivo as James Bond, because they were discussing it for a very long time after Daniel Craig made his exit, that they wanted to cast a woman, and they wanted to cast a woman of color. And then also a person of color. It changed, and they went, okay, fine, we'll make it with a man, but it'll be Idris Elba.
Yeah, but
and now the fact that Cavill's name is out there, like ex-Superman, he's actually like this masculine icon.
He's a conservative icon as well.
Ish, yeah.
No, he's pretty prominent in the conservative community, and he stood up against a lot of wokeness when it was going down for Warhammer and a lot of other things.
Sure.
I
know.
But I would say Jeff Bezos is becoming a lot more conservative, and he wants to make inroads with Trump. So I think you're actually completely wrong about this. But
what I'm saying is that it had been in talks for a very long time that they wanted to make it woke. But now that the climate has changed, they probably will try not to. Yeah. Especially if Cavill's name is being thrown out there.
Okay, maybe. Oh, I did want to say one more thing about this. I really think they're going to ruin the franchise no matter which way they go, because they paid $1 billion for the property. This means they're going to Marvel Universe it. James Bond is a great movie. It comes out every few years and kind of as a standalone movie, maybe builds on the last one. But when you pay $1 billion for a property, you're really going to try to have off-spins of other characters and make video games and lunchboxes and everything else. I'm just...
Well, they did do that when it originally came out.
But
I mean, kids had James Bond.
But it was completely different. It was not a whole universe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into...
Daniel Craig's one was a whole universe. They had a bunch of movies.
No, that's what I'm saying. Every couple of years they make a movie.
Yes.
And it doesn't have all these spin-off characters, and we're not making the whole universe for... Yeah. That's what I mean by when I say Marvel Universe.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up J.D. Vance. His speech again, it's now coming up in social media a lot, or when I'm watching YouTube. He's really sparked a populist revolution in Germany, France, and the EU. I haven't seen much come out of the UK yet, but I'm guessing he's going to spark a populist revolution there as well. I'm seeing a lot of politicians now bring up his speech, people that are for it, people that are against it, but I'm seeing a lot of common people in debates, and when they're stating their opinions on their YouTube channels and things like this, really gathering behind J.D. Vance and saying, we as the people agree with everything he's saying. Our politicians just, nobody is saying what he's saying, and nobody represents us anymore. So it's really a good look that it was one of the best all-time political speeches I have seen. And that being said, the fact that it's really sparking a movement in Europe now is a good sign.
And the fact that they can no longer ignore it, because I think they'd been trying to, like most of the European countries, or at least in the EU, were trying to dismiss the sentiment that has been coming up and just calling everybody the R word. I think we can't say that word on YouTube, but like you're white and supremacy and all of those things. And now they can't really ignore it because they're seeing that the groundswell is not just in their own country, but also in all the neighboring ones. And it's not coming from a place of, like, it makes sense. It's not coming from people being illogical. It actually makes sense why they have all these complaints.
There is another layer to this as well. If it wasn't J.D. Vance and it was somebody from another country saying these things, they would have banned him off the social media and called him far right and made sure he didn't have much reach. But because this is the vice president of the United States and people that are living in the EU are using American platforms like YouTube and Facebook and things like this, it's very hard for the EU to say we want to ban this speech and that this is dangerous speech because they need the United States and they need to have good relations with the United States right now. So it's very good to see that they're going to have trouble banning a lot of the American free speech movement that's coming over to Europe. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next story. Now, I didn't have a lot of details on this. This kind of just flashed up from an American political source. It was a credible source, so I'm going to look more into it. I just wanted to give the news to everybody. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is moving quickly to change the Mexican Constitution to protect bad people from U.S. attacks. Is she working for the bad people? When you start looking at the threads on X, AMLO's old party is highly connected with bad people. If Claudia Sheinbaum's going to want to survive the next 4 or 6 years or going forward, she's going to need to separate herself somehow from that party and really realign herself with the United States because there's pressure coming on her from all sides right now.
Well, and they had the whole campaign that AMLO ran on that we should hug them and not give them pew-pews. So, but here it says Mexico Sheinbaum vows to protect national sovereignty as U.S. cracks down on bad people organizations in its territory. Mexican President Sheinbaum says she'll propose reforms to the country's constitution aiming to reinforce the nation's sovereignty after the U.S. designated several Mexican bad people things as even worse people organizations, a move that could potentially lay the groundwork for direct U.S. strikes inside Mexican territory. And she said the people of Mexico under no circumstances will accept interventions, interference, or any other act from abroad that is harmful to the integrity, independence, and sovereignty of the nation. And
the issue she's going to have is she's doing the U.S. bidding because every 30 days Donald Trump's coming down here threatening a tariff, and she's basically having to do what he says. She sent 10,000 troops to the border. Mm-hmm. Now she's trying to play the other side by giving protectionist laws to these groups. So she's really in a spot. I'm going to be very interested to see which way she goes. This isn't Canadian politics. This is a whole different beast. Okay, let's go into the next story here. Just one day after Kash Patel is sworn in as FBI director, Diddy's lawyer quits. Under no circumstance can I continue, he stated.
Yes. So it is interesting, and I said it in Spanish, that exactly, like when Kash Patel comes in as FBI director, vowing to release the Epstein list, Pam Bondi today, ensuring everybody that
One
it
sec.
will.
She said, I have the.
That it'll be released.
She said, I have the Epstein files on my desk right now, and I want to release them as soon as possible to have transparency with the public. This is what you want to see from the administration, and all the right people have now been confirmed, so these things will start generating out to the public, but continue.
So the lawyer is Anthony Rico, who submitted a motion seeking to withdraw from the case. And he essentially just said, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs, probably because he's shitting himself, as are everybody else, every other lawyer that has ever been involved with, I'm guessing, most celebrities and high-powered people right now. And we have seen, and we talked about it in during another live, that, for example, searches for criminal defense lawyer and for how to unalive other people and not get caught have been up, especially in the D.C. area, Washington, D.C. area. So we do know that all of these nominations and now certifications of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of these people that are coming in to clean house, well, the people that made the house dirty are pretty much running scared and probably shit list because we know, and probably we also know, with the Epstein list, and there's obviously a Diddy list, I'm sure there's a lot of names that, match up.
Yeah.
So it'll be way harder to defend him once the files come out, plus Kash Patel being on this whole, I'm gonna make everything transparent kick, which means...
Yeah, and it's not just him. Like I said yesterday, you need multiple heads from multiple departments all to agree to declassify a lot of these documents, and they are all in agreement all the way up to the executive, which is Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching somebody else talk about countries that were making financial reforms, and they were saying, well, it didn't really work. It didn't really align the people with the government. The reason this is working on a different level in the United States right now, he's not just finding waste and fraud that's to the tune of billions of dollars through Doge within the U.S. government, but he's also coming to terms with the past, 50 or 100 years of all of the corruption the U.S. government has been involved in by declassifying a lot of these documents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well done.
Let's go into the next story, which is Hooters is filing for bankruptcy. We almost made this the thumbnail.
Yeah, because we know that people usually click on
But we didn't clickbait it.
Big-chested ladies.
Okay, why don't you give the audience a little bit about this? I chose this story because Hooters is not so big in the United States anymore. But when I moved to Mexico, these things are all over the place.
Yeah. I don't even know if I've ever been to one, but they're still alive and well. And also, for anybody who's a fan of Hooters in Mexico, they did come out and say that they're two separate entities, so that theirs is not in trouble. I think. That's what I read when I was researching for this one. But Hooters could be the next big chain to file for bankruptcy. We've seen a lot of restaurant chains kind of falling down the wayside. Hooters is reportedly in talks for bankruptcy filing. It seems Bloomberg reported today that Hooters, the country's most famous restaurant, is in talks with law firm Ropes and Gray to prepare bankruptcy filing, according to sources close to the situation. And Hooters has not responded or confirmed either, but the chain was facing a $300 million in debt and failing revenue back in September 2024. So there was cause for them to look into it.
And they had gone woke somewhat, and they made a series of bad decisions in the United States. I used to go there when I was a lot younger, but then I hadn't gone there in a long time, and I was watching something on YouTube about it, and they had tried to rebrand the restaurant to a family-oriented restaurant, which I think it's kind of hard to do when you're called Hooters and you have all waitresses, but they also started hiring men as servers at Hooters. So, it's going against your general concept of how you're going to bring people in generally.
And what the whole purpose of the brand is.
It's a niche brand.
You're going against your brand.
Okay, let's go to the next story here. We got a lot of stories, so I'm just going to try to keep blowing through these. This is one of the stories that you brought up. Pepsi rejects DEI going forward.
Yes. Hold on. I'm trying to center it on the screen.
Which, this is good to hear because there was a bunch of brands starting to reject DEI, and because they're all doing it at the same time, it's really hard to get an economic protest from the left against them or a cancellation. They kind of all... have cover fire on one another because they're all doing it at the same time.
Yes, and a big reason why they're all doing it at the same time is because of Robbie Starbuck, who is a journalist and investigative journalist who's also been on top and said kind of one of the biggest reasons why companies have now decided to go against DEI, but also state it publicly, because he goes and tells them, hey, I found all of these policies you have. What do you say about them? And then they come out and say, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. He was also very, in part, responsible for the whole Harley Davidson thing and them retracting. Same with Bud Light and Budweiser. So follow him. See what he says.
We did make a video on the Harley Davidson going woke as well.
And I had talked about Robbie Starbuck way before in English as well. You'll find them on all my old videos that don't look good.
Yeah, but this just shows what a grassroots movement can really do, because Robbie Starbuck was really one person doing an investigation on each of these companies and then making a video and outing these companies, which would spark cancellations of the consumers not buying the brand. And he had a lot of success on this, so it does show that one person can make a difference. Mm-hmm. One channel can make a difference. So it's important that normal people speak out as much as possible.
Yeah. And he said, massive news. I contacted PepsiCo to let them know that I planned on doing a story about their woke policies. When I contacted them, they were ready to make some big changes. I can now exclusively tell you what's changing. They will no longer have a DEI officer. PepsiCo will no longer have a DEI team. They will end DEI representation goals. They will no longer participate in the HRC. I have a whole video in English and in Spanish about the Human Rights Campaign. It's nothing about human rights, and they're responsible for a lot of the, especially trans LGBTQ stuff that has infected a lot of companies. Their really big partner is Disney, and also Bill Gates and George Soros. So if you want to know more about that, videos are somewhere in the channel. They will end all DEI trainings. All PepsiCo sponsorships must align with their business going forward. Instead of supplier diversity, they're now focused on growing their small business supplier base. So they're not just focusing on what color the people that are supplying them are. And they will now be centralized management of all employee groups to ensure that their activities align with the core business. And it's important too, because a lot of people are aware but don't really know that these big brands are usually like umbrellas, and they have all these other little brands around them. And so they touch a lot more brands than you would think. Either because they created them or because they bought them. But so right now they own Gatorade, Quaker oatmeal and cereal, Chewy Bar, Starbucks, the coffees that come in a glass at grocery stores, Rockstar Energy, Mug Root Beer, Mountain Dew, Sobe, Captain Crunch, Cheetos, Doritos, Lay's, Ruffles, Tostitos, Chester's, so basically everything I eat. Frito-Lay, Funyuns, Grandma's Cookies, Miss Vicky's, Roll Gold, Pretzels, Stacy's Pita, Sun Chips, Smith's.
Okay, we got it. It's a lot of brands.
But that's the thing, like a lot of people are not aware that all of these policies affect not just like Pepsi, but affect a lot of things that you purchase.
It's the same thing with Disney. They own just massive amounts of brands. So when one of these big companies change, it's really a huge shift in the culture, and you're seeing the culture shift overnight to conservatism, which is at least within the United States, and a lot of these are global brands, so there's going to be an impact globally.
Yes.
Okay, going into the next story here. This is a UFC story. So Forrest Griffin was on the Rampage Jackson podcast talking about racism, and he made an absolute fool of himself.
I don't know if we can say the R word.
Oh, okay. He played the white martyr, made of just the thing. I highly recommend going to watch the Jackson podcast with Forrest Griffin. He talks about this for the first 5 minutes, and he probably made the biggest fool of himself that I've seen anybody make. And Rampage started the interview, and he goes, well, I just need to take a minute to talk about some things. He started talking about how white people enslave black people, how he's ashamed for it, how he gets giddy when black people want to be his friend. And he just went on and on and on, said how he looks like a pig and he's got pig skin. And it was just, he degraded himself. And
Denigrated.
Rampage Jackson's black, and he didn't even want to talk about these issues. That was number one. But number two, he was extremely wrong on the historical facts, because the historical facts is every single culture around the world has been enslaved, not just black and white people. The word slave comes from Slavic, which is Eastern European, who were all being enslaved by the Middle East region. So, and Irish people were enslaved within the United States as well. A lot of people do not know this, but Irish slaves were a lot cheaper to buy than black slaves at the time, so they were more disposable to their masters.
I know nothing about UFC or anything that you're talking about, but sure.
But, okay, let's just move on to the next story then. Rumors, that's our dog, by the way. Rumors CBS may be gone within the year, along with a lot of its affiliates, because of the Trump lawsuit, which is for a sum he's requesting of $20 billion. So if this is held against him, I would expect them to come to some kind of settlement before they go to a jury. We'll see what happens, but if it's anywhere in the tune of $20 billion, that could really hamper CBS. And that's one of the major news affiliates. They have a lot of subsidiaries under them. Do you have anything to say about this?
Well, I mean, it also expanded now after the whole 60 Minutes thing with Kamala Harris also came out, adding Paramount as a defendant, and a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, was also sent to the FCC. Because back then, when they were both campaigning, Kamala and Trump, the interview she gave, one of the longest ones she gave, 260 minutes or with 60 minutes, was very edited, and it was very apparent that her answers were not really her answers. And once they managed to get the whole footage released, it was clear that they were feeding her answers and essentially just helping her out to go against Trump. So that they're a news organization, and not technically, they're not supposed to do that.
Well, yeah, USAID was buying up a lot of news networks and radio stations in order to distribute propaganda as well. This is also coming out. But while I was reviewing this story, I was kind of looking into the history of propaganda just in the modern context, not the entire history of it. But what I came across was, if you remember around 2005, before 2005, weather was never really a news segment on the news. It was just the weather. Then they started doing news segments giving winter storms names, and that's when the whole climate change propaganda came in. One of the major levers of climate change propaganda was through news networks. The other thing that happened was under the Barack Obama administration, when he came in, local news networks started broadcasting the first 5 minutes or the beginning of their broadcast of national news. Primarily before that point, it was all local news for local stations. Once in a while, they would have a national story, but this really changed the narrative and gave the government a means to get into every local district within the United States to have national propaganda and one narrative going out to all the people. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next story is at noon today, it will have been Trump's first full month in office. So why don't you talk a little bit about it, because I seem to be doing all the talking tonight.
Congratulations, Mr. Trump. Well, I mean, we have seen a lot of changes, and some even already taking effect of all the campaign promises and just the general promises that he had made. So we do see a very noticeable shift between how he came in the first time and how he's coming in this time, and the people that surround him. We talked a lot about that yesterday. So
yeah, there's no guarantee it's gonna work out, but this is truly an experiment, a one-of-a-kind experiment to try to clean up a government and realign the people with the government. So I'm interested to see what happens there, and that's one of the major reasons I'm supporting him. And it's because all the people he has around him this time, he's actually doing the things he said he was going to do. And his first term, he did almost absolutely nothing. So I'm really happy with what's been going on this term. Okay, the next story is Germany can't use the Berlin subway because it's occupied by angry Islamic mobs. It's time for Europeans to wake up. Did you have video or anything of this or no?
No, I couldn't find anything.
Oh, you couldn't? Okay.
Yeah, that's why
I was watching the video earlier on YouTube about this. There was quite a few news stories on this. So basically, hundreds of Islamic people boarded the subway. These were young men that were angry, and they wouldn't let the door shut. And it was basically a semi-violent protest, I would say. Everybody that was on the train was running off the train, panicking. They were pushing people off, not letting people get on. So if you hold one train at one stop, none of the trains are able to move. So that they completely froze the Berlin subway system. And I mean, the police typically aren't taking action on things like this. So I'll be interested to see what has happened tomorrow with this, if there were arrests made or what went on.
Yeah, I found something quick.
Oh, you did?
I won't have sound because can't figure it out right now, but yeah. So Germans can't use Berlin subway because it's occupied by angry Islamic mobs. Europeans must wake up now. And there is a lot of police in the video, so it is interesting why they're
they just kind of stand there.
Yeah, they're just standing there.
And that's typically what happens in Europe and the UK.
And it looks like they're
UK,
coming or going to or from a protest. And they also have been letting all of these pro-Palestine protests kind of go
it's fine to have
dangerous
protests
extents.
happen, but you can't shut down the whole subway for it.
Go to dangerous extents. Yeah. That's what they've been having to allow because they don't want to seem...
And they're treating different groups differently within the EU and the UK. Mm-hmm. So it's two forms of policing depending who you are. So hopefully that changes. But let's get on to the next story. And if you don't know who Adam Schiff is, he's a congressman within the United States. And he gave a speech, and he's been talking about, but there's a lot of other congressmen like him, primarily on the left, that are extremely against Kash Patel and talking about if he gets in, democracy's going to die. Blah, 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 blah. And the reason they're saying this is because they're scared of all the files he has on all these congressmen. And if he starts to release them, it's going to mean the end of their career. And especially when you add in USAID, where they can no longer funnel money to these career politicians so they can run their campaigns. I think you're going to see a huge shift in the midterms coming up in 2 years on who's going to be elected and reelected.
Mm-hmm. I was looking for something about that, but I can't find anything. So.
Oh man, I forgot to get this quote today. Okay, I'll talk about it really quick. Maybe you can look it up. The Javier Milei quote that he had on X, because I had finally found it. It was on CoffeeZilla, but maybe if you can find the quote. But it had come out that maybe I'll wait for you to get the quote. I'll go to the next story and then I'll come back to it.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, that one's hard to talk about. Okay, Chris Matthews, I'm going to have to I can't say certain words on YouTube, so I'm going to try to change it here. Chris Matthews urges violence upon Trump in his latest unhinged rant. So this is going on a lot right now, and I had a list and a picture. I just don't have it up right now again. But a lot of Democrats are calling for violence to be done against Trump, and the list consisted of almost 50 people, and these were all well-known Democrats or people that were in the media, well-known people from different institutions. So they don't know what to do, and now they're one step away from resorting to violence. They're making calls to violence, so hopefully crazy, regular people in everyday society, they're hoping will step up and actually take action on their calls of violence. I really hope nothing does happen. Did you find the Javier Milei quote?
Is it about the sister?
No, it's about the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, about the sister. Or no?
Sister? No.
Or this one?
Why don't you read it and I'll tell you if that's it.
Because he has a lot of posts about Libra, that's the thing.
No, he took down the post. It's not going to be on his X account.
Oh,
he completely deleted it.
No, then I can't.
Okay, why don't you keep talking on the next stories? I'm going to find this.
What's the next story?
You don't have the stories in front of you?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll talk about the Javier Milei thing tomorrow, but I finally found
on Monday.
On Monday, I finally found the quote that he deleted on X. It was on CoffeeZilla's channel. CoffeeZilla is a YouTube channel that outs a lot of cryptocurrency scams. So he was an extremely good source on this. But Javier Milei had made some big promises on this currency, which I had not read the tweet before this. When I was talking about the story yesterday, he had implicated himself and Argentina in ways that really aren't acceptable. I still like Javier Milei, but I'm really disappointed after I seen the actual quote that he deleted. And I understand why he deleted it now. Okay, the next story is the entire stadium just booed the Canadian national anthem at the U.S.-Canada hockey game. So Trump threatening tariffs on Canada and trying to deal really... Can you talk about this for a second?
Sure. This isn't the first time we see it happen. Actually, I believe last week or 2 weeks ago, there have been it's hockey season right now, and there's been games between the U.S. and Canada. And at the first time it happened, all the U.S. fans started booing during the Canadian national anthem, which, I mean, it's not very polite to do or the way to show patriotism, but then the U.S. beat Canada, and they were actually up, I think, about like 3 fights within the first 10 minutes. But this was the last game. So in this new game, now you know what to say.
Canada won the new game.
Yeah.
So they went 1-1. Canada won the last game, so that was actually the most important. But you can see tensions really escalating between Canada and the United States. This is not a fight the Canadian people are going to win. They need to. I would recommend to keep it as civil as possible. their entire economy is based on the U.S. economy, where only 2.5% of the American economy is based upon their economy. So going forward, hopefully they can try to de-escalate tensions, but because the Liberals are the ones in power in Canada, they're trying to run a campaign against Donald Trump and get reelected off of that. So it's an interesting strategy. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll see. Okay, the next story, I haven't watched the speech, but I'm going to watch it later tonight. I just wanted to kind of give some general information about this gentleman, because last time we went to CPAC, he was the person that impressed me the most, and I had never heard about him before that. It was Rick Grinnell, and he's being interviewed on the CPAC stage by Politico. So Politico is a highly liberal news source, and I'm expecting them to get booed on stage, and I'm expecting Rick to be pretty witty and fast on stage. We'll see what happens, but if you don't know who Rick Grinnell is, he's currently the special envoy to President Trump. He used to be the acting director of the National Intelligence. He was also the U.S. ambassador to Germany, and he's going to run the Kennedy Center, which is going bankrupt. So he's also gay, so he's probably the most prominent gay figure within the Trump administration, although there is quite a few. People don't realize there are a lot of females, blacks, and gays within Trump's administration, which is a good thing. It's a really diverse administration, but when people think Donald Trump, they don't really understand he does have a really diverse he has a really diverse cabinet and people that are in really powerful positions, but also like Pam Bondi, like Rick Grinnell, like Kash Patel. Like, I would say, and they're diverse in the best possible way. They got there on their merit, not on their skin color, not on their sex, but on their merit. And that's why when you see a woman in the Trump administration, she's actually powerful. When you see a minority in the Trump's administration, they're very, very well spoken, especially when you compare them to the the Biden administration. I remember the last White House press secretary that Biden had. Every day she looked like she was pissing her pants. She wasn't that
bad at the end, but she was scared. Karine Jean-Pierre.
Well, you compare her. You compared her to the new press secretary.
Girl, yes.
What
is her name?
Complete.
I don't remember. But I was gonna say also, like, a lot of people do criticize, like a lot of very staunch conservatives, a lot of them very rhino, criticize a lot the fact that there is this diversity within the Trump administration and within like his MAGA supporters. But what they don't understand is that actually is good. Like, it's good to be able to show to the progressive insane leftists that there are people like them that actually can do some critical thinking and can see the light and like the truth, and the fact that everything that they've been calling them for the longest time is not true. And bringing more people to this side that are willing to cooperate and work with you is one of the reasons why Trump won this time.
Well, and you got to understand, he's getting a lot of the diversity from within the conservative movement, but he is really getting the best diversity from former Democrats, like RFK Jr., like Tulsi Gabbard. So a lot of these liberals are coming over and really filling his administration and really making it something special. But there was one more thing I wanted to say about this, and it was, well, I can't remember. So
you got 2 minutes.
Okay, we'll move on here. Byron Donalds, he's also a congressman within the United States. He was voted most likely to be the next black African American to be president. And the talks are he is the front runner to be J.D. Vance's vice president in 2028, and he's very young, so he could potentially run 2 terms with J.D. Vance and then make a presidential run for himself. I do think J.D. Vance is going to have some competition in the 2028 election, and I don't think it's going to be from necessarily conservatives. I think J.D. Vance is starting to pull away from the pack and show that he really is the new leader of the MAGA movement after Trump's done. And I think your major opponent for J.D. Vance is going to come from actually the Democrats. And that might sound crazy right now, but I really think a figure like an RFK or somebody that was a former Democrat and is now with the Conservative Party is going to go back to the Democrats and try to form a populist revolution within the Democratic Party. So if that happens, that's really their only hope. Otherwise, that party is literally dead in the water. Mm-hmm. Okay, you had anything to say?
No, he has some pretty interesting moments that you can look up, like best Byron Donald comebacks and stuff. But he's well spoken, and he knows how to like throw a comeback to. Well, and
Donald Trump has put support behind him as well, and he's endorsed him, which is huge. Okay, well, we only have like 2 people watching that I see right now, so we're about to touch the third rail, the one subject you're not supposed to talk about on YouTube, but I guess we'll talk about it anyway.
Well, you got like 1 minute to do so.
Okay, so you do not want to talk about it?
We can talk about it on Monday if is it super important?
No, it's not that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're at the end of the stream?
Well, what other... Do we have other news or no?
Yeah, I had a bunch of more news. Okay, fine. She wants to go. We have 2 people watching, so I guess she wants to disappoint.
I think it's you and I watching right now. Hold on. There we go. Well, what were the other, like, just quickly?
Well, it was going to come up with a lot of things that's going on in Israel, Gaza, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. So it was all Middle Eastern and Israeli news. Things are really starting to boil up over there. Yeah. And that's the one thing YouTube really doesn't like you talking about is Israel. But even if, so yeah. The other thing was Luigi Mangione. He's going to make his first appearance in a New York City court, and he's the person that, how would you say it?
Did end the life of the CEO of, what was that company called? Of an health insurance company. What is that company called? It's Friday. My brain doesn't work, and I stayed up late editing.
And there was a bunch. I'm just going to run through the stories real quick.
Sure.
Trump is actually bringing back a lot of people that he was firing. So he's firing everybody en masse. And if certain people are needed, he's bringing them back. Hopefully, he's paying them more. But it's good to see he's not just cutting. He is actually bringing people back. The next one after that was Trump wants to reform the U.S. Postal Service and merge it with the Commerce Department. There's a lot of senior citizens outraged about this. This is a huge senior citizens issue typically, and anytime you try to touch the post office in the States, you usually turn senior citizens against you. But at least typically that's what's found in polling. The other one was the FBI said it found 2,400 new JFK assassination records. Probably not supposed to say that word, yes. But I did. Only a couple of people are watching anyway.
Unaliving records. No, but YouTube is always watching.
Okay, and that was it. The last one was another Israeli story, but the Israeli stories and the Middle Eastern stories are very complex, and it would take me a while, and you want me to do it on a Monday.
Well, I want to figure out if we can do them. Just quickly, we do have a comment from someone. Jonathan Garcia Trejo said a while ago, I hadn't seen it, sorry, respect to the whole Jesus, Cynthia, Erivo thing, he believes that this sort of thing only bring the Christian community and faith back into the community and makes everybody get together.
Yeah, I think typically when the left was doing things like that, it would spark outrage and it would actually rally atheists together. But now we're seeing almost the opposite happen. They're trying to outrage conservatives, and it's really just bringing them together, and we're kind of just letting them be. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing a real uprising in Christianity and the religious movement overall.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's it for today. I'll let you...
Yes, it's Friday. Trying to bring a bit of lighter stories, but then Guy gets a hold of the news and it becomes pretty dense. So,
I'm the one that writes all the news stories for the day, yes. And I'm heavy into...
Because I was editing today.
I'm heavy into geopolitics, so that's why it becomes a geopolitics show, because I refuse to watch anything else.
And because this is like the one space where he can talk now.
Nobody watches this anyway, so I guess...
No, people do watch it, so actually thank you for watching it if you watch it, especially if you watch it till the end. And if you watch it on replay also, thank you so much. We do understand it is Friday, so if you're out there, please be safe, be careful, don't do stupid things. Let me be your voice of reason, and
adios.
Good night. Hope you have a great weekend, and yes, that is. Oh, and somebody said, hi, Nat, I love your hair. Thank you.
What about my hair?
Your hair is fine.
I got glasses. What about my glasses?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Ah! Hold on. How do I turn this off?